Chapter 1347. Yichen, let's attack together. Lan Yu drew her blue moon saber. Boom, 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 boom. The two joined hands to attack the barrier. Instantly, the barrier trembled violently like a rubber ball, constantly sinking and bulging, while the divine stones inside remained motionless. After an entire 2 hours, a crack finally appeared on the light barrier. Let's work harder. Yichen attacked tirelessly. If they couldn't get the divine stones now, it would be 1,000 times more difficult for them to get them when the others came. More and more cracks appeared on the barrier, making it look like a hollow crystal on the verge of shattering. Bang! A crisp shattering sound resounded as the barrier shattered. Bush, bush, bush. The 3 divine stones seemed to have a mind of their own as they flew off in 3 different directions at an astonishing speed. Don't let them get away. Lan Yu's figure flashed as she chased after one of the divine stones. Having comprehended the essence of the word, line, her speed was extremely fast. In just a short moment, she had caught the divine stone. It was strange that the power contained in the divine stone could be said to be terrifying, but it didn't harm anyone. It was as if whoever touched it first would possess it and wouldn't resist. Yichen's speed was only a bit slower than Lan Yu's. He soon caught up to one of the divine stones. Now there was only one left, and it had flown far away. Ha! It's a divine stone. A figure suddenly appeared in the direction the divine stone flew to. It was the divine fire tribe's Raging Blaze Hall's hallmaster, Howubian. He grabbed the divine stone and laughed heartily. What dogs hit luck? Lan Yu was indignant. There are still 2 more. Let's go first. Through the netherworld's sacred eye, Yichen saw Howujin and He Sha, 3 quasi-legendary sovereigns. Even he couldn't guarantee that he could resist them. It was best to leave first. For him, 1 divine stone was enough. As long as he could restore the origin of the heavenly sword, his attack would be more than 100 times stronger. Of course, it would be even better if he had 2 divine stones. Damn it, wait until I fuse this divine stone into my fire divine halberd. Then your time will come. Howubian knew that he wouldn't be able to catch up to Yichen and Lan Yu, so he gave up. Most importantly, he had obtained a divine stone. For now, he could put the matter of hunting down Yichen and Lan Yu to the back of his mind. There was nothing more important than his own matters. I'll also leave first. Otherwise, Howujin and He Sha will definitely be jealous when they see that I have divine stones. Howubian pondered for a moment before flying in the direction he came from. 15 minutes later, Howujin and He Sha appeared. Nothing. Howujin and He Sha exchanged a glance. They had clearly sensed that the source of the radiance was here. The black fiend closed his eyes and carefully sensed for a moment. Swish. His eyes opened, and a cold light shone in them. Someone came just now. 3 people. One of them is from your divine flame tribe. He should be Howubian. The other 2 are the people we're chasing. They got the god's stone? Howujin's face was dark. He did not doubt the black fiend's ability. The black fiend was proficient in the profundities of yin and yang, and he knew a yin-yang secret art that could sense the aura left behind by others. Let's not waste any more time. Let's chase after them and not let them leave the 12th level. Once they left the 12th level, they would be free to fly. Following the aura, the 2 chased in the direction where Yichen and Lan Yu flew, raising their speed to the limit. Howujin and the Black Fiend have caught up. Yichen was constantly paying attention to the situation behind him. The netherworld's sacred eye had given him time to prepare. What should we do? Actually, Lan Yu could take out her courtyard and enter it. With the defensive power of the courtyard's array, not to mention the 2 of them who were only quasi-legend rank sovereigns, even a true legend rank sovereign would be able to hold on for a while. During this time, they could completely fuse the divine stone into the saint artifact and increase its power. At that time, they would have a fighting chance. But there was a problem. She didn't want to expose her courtyard. Once it was exposed, they would definitely guess that she was from the Unfalling Eagle tribe. She didn't want to return to the tribe so quickly. Their speed is a bit slower than ours. Let's see if we can return to the 11th level. As long as they return to the 11th level, they would be safe. The 12th level would consume too much sword energy. After flying for a while, looks like we won't be able to reach the 11th level. Lan Yu sighed. The 12th level's terrain was actually moving. After flying for a while, they were completely lost in the 12th level. Since we're already here, let's find a place to fuse the divine stone into the saint artifact. Fusing the divine stone into the saint artifact was a very dangerous matter. The slightest carelessness could cause the saint artifact to be destroyed. A supreme artifact could only contain a limited amount of divine stone. The more perfect a supreme artifact was, the more divine stone it could contain. Apart from that, if the method of fusing the divine stone wasn't ingenious and meticulous enough, the saint artifact would also be destroyed. It was like a person who could eat a bowl of rice, but if you asked him to eat a bowl of rice in one go, he would definitely be stuffed to death. Although the 12th level's temperature was high, there were still mountains. A tall mountain appeared in front of the two of them. The two of them discovered something strange. The temperature in the mountain was countless times lower than outside. Furthermore, the mountain rocks were extremely hard. The two of them used all their strength, but they could only leave a mark on the mountain wall. Fortunately, this mountain seemed to have been visited by someone. There was an unfathomable cave on the mountain wall. It must be a legendary rank sovereign. Lan Yu guessed. Yichen nodded. With their strength, digging an unfathomable cave was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Only legendary rank sovereigns could do it easily. Unexpectedly, this 12th level had long been discovered by someone else. It was just that it was kept a secret. As for the divine stone, it would be obtained by those who were fated. It wasn't guaranteed that whoever came first would be able to obtain it. Yichen scanned the cave with his netherworld's sacred eye. Seeing that there was no danger in the cave, the two of them rushed in and moved a huge boulder to block the entrance. If someone wanted to force their way in, they would have to break the boulder first. The more dangerous thing was that if the other party came in, the two of them would have nowhere to go. They could only fight with all their strength. The cave lit up. The two of them meditated on the spot, far away from each other. Taking out the divine stone and the heavenly sword, Yichen took a deep breath and slowly stuck the divine stone on the heavenly sword, establishing a connection between the two. Then he urged the heavenly sword to absorb the divine stone's power. This process was very tedious. The divine stone contained too much power, and the absorption speed couldn't be too fast. It could only be done bit by bit. Buzz. Like dry and cracked land meeting rainwater, the heavenly sword hungrily absorbed the divine stone's power. Yichen vaguely discovered that the damaged source inside the heavenly sword was slowly recovering. It's really effective, Yichen thought. His growth time was too short. He had too many shortcomings. Currently, only the sacred tool could help him close the gap between him and the others. He was at a disadvantage in other aspects. This couldn't be rushed. Chapter 1348. On the other side, the blue moon saber in Lan Yu's hand emitted a sharp aura. Unlike the heavenly sword, the blue moon saber's origin wasn't damaged, and the divine stone was used to increase its power. The slightest mistake might cause the blue moon saber to break. Compared to the blue moon saber, it was much easier to fuse the divine stone into the heavenly sword, mainly because the divine stone could repair the heavenly sword. Strand by strand, the power of the divine stone flowed into the origin of the heavenly sword, causing the rust on the heavenly sword to gradually disappear. The heavenly sword became translucent and sharp, displaying the peerless magnificence that a sacred sword should have. Boom! The cavern trembled. Yichen and Lan Yu raised their eyes and looked at the entrance of the cavern. Outside the entrance, Huo Wujin and He Sha were attacking the boulder that blocked the entrance. He Sha, are you sure they're inside? Huo Wujin asked as he attacked the boulder. He Sha replied, they're definitely inside. Damn it, why is this boulder so hard? We can only leave a dent on it with our strength. Huo Wujin said, the boulder in the divine fire cave isn't ordinary. After being refined with high temperature, it's even harder than an ordinary sovereign artifact. However, the boulder's energy is limited, so we can definitely shatter it. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them attacked the boulder again, and gradually, cracks appeared on the boulder. It was a sign that it was about to collapse. Just a little more. Huo Wujin circulated his desolate yuan and a fiery dragon attacked the boulder, while He Sha's yin-yang millstone crushed the boulder like a giant pulverizer. Boom. Finally, the boulder exploded, sending rubble flying everywhere. Let's go in. Huo Wujin charged into the cavern first, followed by He Sha. The two of them weren't worried about any dangers in the cavern. With their strength, they could deal with any dangers. Get out! A blue saber radiance burst forth and filled the entire cave. Lan Yu had already fused the divine stone into the blue moon saber and had unleashed an even stronger attack. Fusing with God stones seemed difficult, but it was actually not that difficult. As long as the supreme weapon or saint artifact could withstand it, the process could be sped up. As the daughter of the chief of the Unfalling Eagle tribe, Lan Yu's Blue Moon Blade was a top-notch level 5 supreme weapon. Not to mention fusing with 5 God stones, it would not be a problem for it to fuse with 6, 7, or even 8 God stones. In contrast to Lan Yu, Yi Qin used God stones to repair the Heaven Sword. He needed to be careful not to put too much pressure on the damage source, so the speed was much slower. Clang. When the Blue Moon Blade had only fused with 4 divine stones, Lan Yu had been able to unleash the attack of a quasi-legend sovereign. Now that the Blue Moon Blade's power had risen, Lan Yu's attack had naturally risen along with it. It had already surpassed the range of an ordinary quasi-legend sovereign and was advancing towards a higher level. In an instant, Huo Wujin and Black Fiend were forced to retreat. 5-star Earth Saint Artifact. Black Fiend blurted out. They already knew that Yi Chen and Lan Yu had saint artifacts. Without them, the two of them wouldn't be a match for them. Saint artifacts were divided into Earth Saint artifacts and Sky Saint artifacts. There were also smaller grades within the grades. An Earth Saint artifact that had 1 divine stone fused with it was a 1-star Earth Saint artifact, and 2 divine stones fused with it was a 2-star Earth Saint artifact, and so on. A 5-star Earth Saint artifact was an Earth Saint artifact that had 5 divine stones fused with it. It was extraordinarily precious. Its power has increased by quite a bit. Lan Yu giggled. She didn't seem nervous at all when she encountered 2 quasi-legend sovereigns. Unrivaled Fire Dragon. Huo Wujin coldly snorted. He clasped his hands together and pushed them forward with his palms facing outwards. In an instant, an invincible fire dragon flew out from his palms and pounced towards Lan Yu. One could vaguely see a huge heart within the body of the fire dragon. The heart was violently beating, causing the fire dragon to become even more powerful and full of explosive power. The unrivaled fire dragon wasn't a supreme martial art, but a supreme secret art that contained the power of the heart. He Sha had previously been injured, so when he saw Huo Wujin executing the unrivaled fire dragon, he casually threw out 2 yin-yang millstones. A huge explosion erupted. Lan Yu let out a muffled groan as she took over 10 steps back. With her current strength, she could fight against either Huo Wujin or He Sha. But it was a bit too much for her to fight 1 against 2. After all, her strength wasn't in her own body, but in the Blue Moon Saber. Her foundation was much weaker than the 2 of them. Lan Yu was pushed back again and again. In this cave, the advantage she had gained from comprehending the Ro character was completely useless. Very quickly she was pushed to the front of Yi Chen. If she took another step back, Yi Chen would be exposed. Unrivaled Fire Dragon. Yin and Yang Worlds. An invincible fire dragon and a palm energy that could separate Yin and Yang struck Lan Yu's body. Lan Yu spurted out a mouthful of blood as she was sent flying. Just when she was about to fly over Yi Chen's head, a strong arm caught her and skillfully placed her on the ground. Leave the rest to me, Yi Chen said confidently. You succeeded? Lan Yu's eyes narrowed when she saw the heavenly sword in Yi Chen's hand. This wasn't a 5-star Earth Saint artifact, but a 7-star Earth Saint artifact. Between Earth Saint artifacts, although the difference of 1 star wasn't huge, it shouldn't be forgotten that apart from power, Earth Saint artifacts also had their own special characteristics. For example, Lan Yu's Blue Moon Saber possessed the ability to pierce through armor. If the ability to pierce through armor reached an unimaginable level, it could directly disregard the defense of others. On the other hand, Yi Chen's power of light was an upright power that enemies wouldn't be able to completely defend against. Although the power of light wasn't as absolute as the ability to pierce through armor, it was more comprehensive. With doubts in her mind, Lan Yu retreated behind Yi Chen. With the heavenly sword in hand, Yi Chen slashed out with the Overlord sword form. Boom! The domineering sword aura completely filled up the cave. The sword aura was majestic and indestructible. It was like a straight torrent that tore through everything. Not good. Huo Wujin and He Sha resisted with all their might. Rumble! The cave trembled as Huo Wujin and He Sha flew out of the cave. Is this the true power of the heavenly sword? A piece of divine stone had completely restored the origin of the heavenly sword. Right now, the heavenly sword was at its peak. Not only had its power increased by a lot, but the power of light was also clearer and more vigorous, making the sword aura irresistible. Let's go. Let's go out. Right now, Yi Chen didn't need to be afraid of quasi-legendary supremes. In terms of defense, he could block the attacks of quasi-legendary supremes. In terms of offense, he was probably at the top among quasi-legendary supremes. After flying out of the cave, the two saw Huo Wujin and He Sha with gloomy expressions. 7-star Earth Saint artifact, who are you guys? Huo Wujin asked. He didn't think that ordinary people could possess a 7-star Earth Saint artifact. It doesn't matter who we are. Take this. With a wave of the heavenly sword, Yi Chen executed the death cut, which had the widest range of attack. Although the death cut wasn't at the completion stage, it already had the might of a completion stage sword move under the amplification of the heavenly sword. As for the completion stage sword moves, the Overlord sword form and illusory sword form, they were of a higher level. Huo Wujin and He Sha were having a hard time resisting. The Saint artifact in Yi Chen's hand was too powerful. If they had a 7-star Earth Saint artifact, they could even challenge legendary supremes. Huo Wujin, He Sha, let me help you guys. Right at this moment, Huo Wubian arrived. The power of the fire god's halberd in his hands skyrocketed as he swept it at Yi Chen. Chapter 1349. The fire divine halberd had fused with a divine stone, officially becoming a saint artifact. Although it was only a 1-star Earth Saint artifact, there was a huge gap between a supreme artifact and a saint artifact. On the contrary, the gap between an Earth Saint artifact was much smaller. With a 1-star Earth Saint artifact, Huo Wubian's strength had firmly suppressed Huo Wujin and He Sha. He could be considered an expert among quasi-legend rank sovereigns. Deep green flames curled up and turned into a ferocious qilin that pounced at Yi Chen. Come at me! Yi Chen roared and executed the tyrant sword stance. Boom! The fire qilin and the sword qi perished together, and a powerful shockwave swept out in all directions. Powerful! Worthy of being a quasi-legend rank sovereign. Yi Chen was clear that he was relying on the sky sword stance to have the strength of a quasi-legend rank sovereign, while Huo Wubian and the rest were quasi-legend rank sovereigns themselves. If they had the strength, they would naturally be powerful and couldn't be easily dealt with. But I have the illusory sword stance. If one's heart force isn't strong enough, they won't be my opponent. Yi Chen was very confident in his illusory sword stance. Not every quasi-legend rank sovereign's defense was as strong as his. Therefore, as long as they were affected by the illusion for a moment, he would be able to find a loophole and attack them. Raging Flame River. Seeing that his ultimate move had been neutralized, Huo Wubian executed an even stronger move. As soon as this move was executed, the surging flames turned into a river and gushed towards Yi Chen. It's time to show my true strength. Yi Chen did not try to avoid it, instead rushing toward the river of fire. Courting death. Huo Wubian sneered. But in the next moment, his expression froze. Yi Chen actually ignored the flame river and slashed his way through it. When the surging flames landed on Yi Chen, they were instantly extinguished. Illusory sword stance. After slashing apart the last layer of the flame river, Yi Chen appeared before Huo Wubian and slashed out with his sword. Not good. Huo Wubian had already experienced the power of the illusory sword stance, but he still couldn't defend against it. If one wanted to defend against the illusory sword stance, their heart force must be strong enough, or they had cultivated a supreme heart force secret art. Puchi. Yi Chen's celestial sword pierced through Huo Wubian's shoulder. Originally, Yi Chen had wanted to stab Huo Wubian's chest, but he had woken up ahead of time. The fire god halberd and celestial sword clashed, causing celestial sword's attack trajectory to deviate slightly. After the sword pierced through Huo Wubian's shoulder, Yi Chen lightly shook the heavenly sword. Like powder, half of Huo Wubian's body completely disintegrated. This is a 7-star sacred artifact. Huo Wubian was startled. He swept away Yi Chen with his halberd to prevent himself from suffering another heavy injury. The three of you are no match for me now. Yi Chen retreated several hundred meters and didn't continue attacking. It was too difficult to kill 3 quasi-legendary supremes. Forcing them into a desperate situation was tantamount to forcing them to risk their lives. The 3 of them were silent. What Yi Chen said was the truth, and they couldn't refute it. Even if they did, they wouldn't be able to display their own strength. Hence, they were feeling very conflicted. Let's go. Seeing that the 3 of them weren't speaking, Yi Chen knew that if they stayed here, they would only fly into a rage out of humiliation. His figure flashed, and he flew away with Lan Yu. We're letting them go just like that? Black Fiend was a little unwilling. What else can we do? He has a 7-star sacred artifact. Ordinary quasi-legendary supremes would find it hard to touch him. Only legendary supremes can suppress him. But you and I both know that legendary supremes won't easily make a move unless they've won their respect. 7th-rank tribes all had legendary supremes. Hence, legendary supremes wouldn't make a move for fear of inadvertently provoking other 7th-rank tribes and causing a war. It was fine for the people below to fight, but the people above had to be careful. There might be other divine stones on the 12th floor. Let's continue searching. Huo Wubian's mood wasn't too bad. He was already satisfied with obtaining a divine stone. Previously, he had chased after Yi Chen because he was afraid that Yi Chen would leak the secret, making it impossible for him to obtain the divine stone on the 12th floor. After recovering the heavenly sword origin, Yi Chen didn't continue to stay in the divine fire cave. Quasi-legendary supremes weren't scary, but legendary supremes were. If he provoked the legendary supremes of the divine fire tribe, he would probably die here. The days returned to normal. Yi Chen and Lan Yu occasionally went out for a stroll and went hunting. The rest of the time, they basically stayed in the Eternal Tribe to practice sword and saber arts. Of course, Yi Chen also began to try to forge a supreme sword. In the center of the wilderness god continent, there was a lonely mountain. The top of the mountain had been flattened, and a golden hall sat on it. In the hall, there were 5 golden chairs, each with a person sitting on it. If a legendary supremes were here, they would definitely recognize that the 5 people in the hall were the chiefs of the 5 rank 8 tribes. They were the Redbud Flower tribes Kong Siwei, the Unfalling Eagle tribes Ying Liexiong, the Yunzhong tribes Yun Piaomiao, the Battle Pagoda tribes Tai Tan, and the Xinghai tribes Chen Tianding. Same rules. The Wilderness God Tower will decide how long the martial character can be held, the Xinghai tribe's Chen Tianding said. Then let's go with the old rules. Tai Tan agreed, but then he said, but the details have to be changed. The tribe that gets first place in the Wilderness God Tower will get 2 portions of time, not 1. The Redbud Flower tribe's Kong Siwei frowned. Doesn't that mean that only the top 9 can fight for the tribe's time? That's right. Tai Tan nodded. Tai Tan, it seems that you are very confident in the youths of your tribe? Ying Liexiong sized up Tai Tan with a meaningful look. The Yunzhong tribe's Yun Piaomiao raised her right hand. I agree with Tai Tan. Who's afraid of who? Then let's go with this rule. Ying Liexiong said. Eternal Tribe. To reach the large success stage of the 5-element sword art is indeed not something that can be done in a day. Yi Chen sighed. The 5-element sword art was his foundation. Once he reached the large success stage of the 5-element sword art, he would be able to create sword moves based on the 5-element sword art. At that time, be it offense or defense, there would be no loopholes. Furthermore, he would be able to condense the essence of the 5-element sword art and continue to advance towards a higher level, such as creating a supreme sword art. It must be known that even legendary supremes could not create supreme martial arts. Only high-level legendary supremes could create supreme martial arts. When Heavenly Lord Rotten Devil was at his peak, he should be a high-level legendary supremes. There was no progress in the 5-element sword art. However, during this period of time, Yi Qin did not gain nothing. He had already forged a semi-finished supreme sword. In the process of forging the supreme sword art, Yi Qin was surprised to find that his destruction sword intent and immortal sword intent were slowly improving. Among them, the light sword intent was improving the fastest and had already entered the ranks of the 8th rank. Perhaps when he successfully forged a supreme sword art, he would be able to upgrade the 2 supreme sword intents to the 9th rank and the light sword intent to the peak of the 8th rank. Of course, this was only a guess. A 9th rank supreme sword intent was not that easy to upgrade. Yi Qin, are you interested in going to the Unfalling Eagle tribe with me? Lan Yu came over and asked. Chapter 1350. Unfalling Eagle Tribe? Yi Qin looked at Lan Yu. Lan Yu said, "Actually, I am the daughter of the Unfalling Eagle tribe's leader. My full name is Lan Yu. Why did you invite me to the Unfalling Eagle tribe?" Yi Qin had long guessed that Lan Yu's identity was not simple. She should have come from a large tribe, so he was not surprised at all when she said that she was the daughter of the Unfalling Eagle tribe's leader. Lan Yu explained, "Your tyrant word and illusion word as well as my break word all came from a calligraphy piece left behind by a demigod, and the name of this calligraphy piece is the martial word. The entire calligraphy piece is called the martial word, and the martial word gathers the essence of the entire calligraphy piece. As long as you can completely comprehend the essence of the martial word, you can easily create a supreme martial art. You can even comprehend the will of a demigod through the martial word, and raise your own will to the 9th step. However, the martial word does not belong to anyone, nor does it belong to any great power. It is kept in the hands of the 5 great tribes of the 8th rank. Every 100 years, the 5 great tribes will send young experts to challenge the desolate God Tower. According to the results of the challenge, each tribe will hold the martial word for the next 100 years. As an outsider, you originally did not have the opportunity to participate, but as long as you work hard for my Unfalling Eagle tribe and obtain a good result in the desolate God Tower, I might be able to persuade Father to allocate some time for you to comprehend the martial word." Martial word? Yi Qin's eyes flashed. To him, the opportunity to comprehend the martial word was indeed an unimaginable opportunity. This was much more important than obtaining a saint tool. His sword intent and 5-element sword arts were both at a critical point. Once he was inspired by the martial word, the possibility of a breakthrough was very high. Next, Lan Yu explained the details to Yi Qin. The 5 great tribes would each send 10 young experts under 2,000 years old. Only by entering the top 10 would they be able to obtain a share of the time for the tribe. The desolate God Tower had a total of 1,000 floors. The previous time, the first place of the desolate God Tower had reached the 655th floor. At that time, Lan Yu's strength was not too high, and she had only reached the 580th floor, which was outside of the top 10. The 5 tribes attach great importance to the duration of holding the word martial. The longer one holds the word martial, the faster the strength of the warriors in the tribe will increase. If there is no warrior in the tribe who can break into the top 10, then they will not have the opportunity to hold the word martial for the next 100 years. This will cause them to become weaker and weaker. They will be left behind by others, and it will be difficult to catch up in the future. Lan Yu said as she waved her fist. Last time, she was not able to enter the top 10. This time she had to give it a try. What young experts are there in the 5 tribes? How strong are they? Yi Qin felt that it was necessary to understand the strength of the young masters of the 5 tribes. Lan Yu said, 100 years ago, the top 3 young experts of the 5 great tribes were all quasi-legend supremes. 100 years have passed, and with the addition of comprehending the word martial, I reckon that each of them has become even more powerful. This year, there might be more than 10 quasi-legend supremes. The top 3 are Battle Bear of the Battle Pagoda tribe, Evil Star of the Xinghai tribe, and Kong Shueli of the Bauhinia tribe. Among them, Evil Star is the same as you from the outside world. It is said that he is an evil spirit from the outside world. Evil spirit race, Evil Star, could it be Supreme Evil Star? Yichen had heard of Supreme Evil Star before. He was a rare genius of the evil spirit race. Like him, he had become a supreme in 1,000 years. However, he had disappeared 700 years ago. It turned out that he had gone to the desolate God continent. After hearing so much, you should be willing to follow me to the unfalling eagle tribe, right? Lan Yu asked. Yichen nodded. Of course I am. On the same day, the two of them set off for the unfalling eagle tribe. The unfalling eagle tribe was located on the largest grassland in the desolate God continent. As far as the eye could see, the world was a vast expanse of green that extended to the end of the horizon. The unfalling eagle tribe was very large, like a city. Looking down from the sky, the entire tribe was shaped like an eagle spreading its wings and soaring into the sky. It was very domineering. The princess is back. Lan Yu's return immediately caused a commotion in the unfalling eagle tribe. Some young experts rushed over. It was too difficult to find a suitable partner in the desolate God continent. Lan Yu was the best in terms of identity, temperament, and strength. Not to mention the young experts of the unfalling eagle tribe, even the young experts of the other large tribes were interested in Lan Yu. Lan Yu, where have you been for so long? You're only a high-level super venerable. What qualifications do you have to speak to Princess Lan Yu? Lan Yu, I've already reached the peak super venerable realm in the past few years. Didn't you say that I could speak to you when I reached the peak super venerable realm? The weakest of these young experts was a low-level supreme, and the strongest was a peak supreme. If they were placed in the outside world, they would definitely be top experts. The various races would have a headache. It seems that you are quite popular. Yichen followed beside Lan Yu and said with a smile. Lan Yu said helplessly, they are all a bunch of flies. So annoying. At first, everyone's attention was on Lan Yu. After not getting a response from Lan Yu, they noticed that Lan Yu had actually brought back a young man. Immediately, their gazes turned unfriendly. Lan Yu, who is he? A young man blocked their path. Yichen raised his head and saw that the other party was very handsome. His aura was vigorous and vast. Although it was hard to see his strength from his appearance, Yichen had a feeling that the other party should be a quasi-legend supreme. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to threaten him. In Tianjie, is it your business who I bring back? Lan Yu said bluntly. In Tianjie's expression didn't change, as if he was used to Lan Yu's attitude. However, his gaze towards Yichen was even colder. He transmitted, I don't care what relationship you have with Lan Yu. From now on, you better stay far away from her. Otherwise, I have 100 ways to make you wish you were dead. Do you understand? He had long known that Lan Yu wasn't interested in him. However, in his opinion, Lan Yu wasn't interested in anyone. Therefore, his chances were still high. Now that there was another Yichen, his heart was filled with intense anger. Come to me. At this moment, a thunderous voice sounded. Hearing this voice, everyone shut their mouths and became silent. Yichen, come with me to see my father. Lan Yu was prepared to bring along Yichen. You come alone. Let him stay. At the same time the thunderous voice sounded, Lan Yu involuntarily flew out, leaving Yichen alone in the unfalling eagle tribe's plaza. Surrounding him was a group of young experts with unkind expressions. Yichen sized up the place where Lan Yu left with a strange expression. The corner of his mouth twitched. Lan Yu's father seemed to want to test him. It seemed that if he didn't work hard, he might be kicked out of the unfalling eagle tribe. Chapter 1351. Turn around and leave now, and you'll still have a chance. Otherwise, you'll lose all your face, a peak supreme being behind Ying Tianjie said. You can try. In this world where the strong ruled, one had to fight until the other submitted. You're courting death, Tianjie. I'll teach him a lesson first. You watch from the side. This peak supreme being was called Ying Feihai, one of the 4 heroes of the Unfalling Eagle tribe. The leader of the 4 heroes was Ying Tianjie, and Lan Yu was also one of them. Ying Tianjie nodded slightly, giving his opponent enough space, and said, "Move faster." "Don't worry, it shouldn't take long." Ying Feihai walked in front of Yi Chen and extended his right hand. A blue spear appeared in his hand. The spearhead was blood blue, and judging from its aura, it was clearly a 3-star Earth Saint weapon. "Take this." With the holy spear in hand, Ying Feihai shouted and stabbed at Yi Chen. In an instant, thousands of spear patterns surged out, as if thousands of little eagles were flying, full of freedom and unrestrained feeling. "Your spear art isn't weak." Yi Chen was a bit surprised. Even though his opponent's spear art hadn't reached completion, it wasn't far from completion. Before becoming a supreme being, Yi Chen had always had an advantage in martial arts, but after becoming a supreme being, martial arts became his weakness. If it weren't for the word tyrant and illusion, he wouldn't even have a sword art at completion. Sword burial art. Facing the attack of thousands of spear patterns, Yi Chen used the space-time sword burial art. The sword burial art incorporated the essence of the word break. In terms of power, it might be a bit weaker than tyrant sword style and illusion sword style, but the powerful space-time sword aura could bury the opponent's time. Yi Chen stabbed out, and the thousands of spear patterns froze. Yi Chen's sword pierced through the spear patterns bit by bit, and finally landed on Ying Feihai's chest. Pooh, blood blossomed. Yi Chen pulled back immediately, not intending to completely injure his opponent. Thump, thump, thump. The space-time sword aura disappeared, and Ying Feihai took a few steps back as if he was struck by lightning. "You're not my match," Yi Chen said to Ying Feihai. Just as Ying Feihai was about to say something, Ying Tianjie said coldly, "What is there to be smug about with the help of a sacred artifact? If I am not mistaken, the sword in your hand should be a 7-star sacred artifact." 7-star Earth Saint weapon. Everyone was shocked. Not to mention the Sky Saint artifact, there were only a few of them in the entire Wild's God continent. The Earth Saint artifact was what everyone was thinking about. The 7-star Earth Saint artifact was one of the best Saint artifacts in the entire Wild's God continent. Normally, only legendary supremes could own one. What a coincidence, I also use a sword. The Heavenly Eagle sword in my hand is a 6-star Earth Saint artifact. Ying Tianjie unsheathed a sword from his waist. The body of the sword was extremely sharp, giving people the sharpness of an eagle. The 4 heroes of the Unfalling Eagle tribe each had an Earth Saint tool, and all of them were 3-star Saint tools. If they wanted to upgrade their Star Saint tools, they could only rely on themselves. To upgrade the Heavenly Eagle sword to a 6-star Earth Saint tool, Ying Tianjie had spent a lot of time and energy. "Make your move." Yi Chen became serious. Eagle Wind Break. The speed of Ying Tianjie's sword was extremely fast. Although it was unbelievably fast, it gave people a feeling of flying elegantly, as if he was gliding in the wind. Great completion sword art. Yi Chen took a deep breath. It was within Yi Chen's expectation that his opponent would have the chance to comprehend the word martial and upgrade his supreme sword art to the great completion realm. Now, he was looking forward to the word martial even more. It was still the sword burial art. If Ying Tianjie's sword was a flexible sword, then Yi Chen's sword was a sword of stillness. When the 2 extreme swords collided, no one knew what would happen. Dang 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 dang, the sound of metal clashing filled the entire square. Yi Chen's sword burial art was forcibly broken by Ying Tianjie's sword art. Ying Tianjie's sword art was also a space-time sword art, and it was steadily suppressing Yi Chen. If it wasn't for the fact that Yi Chen had used a defensive stance at the critical moment, he wouldn't have been able to defend against his opponent's sword art. Powerful, his time profound should be at 80% completion. Yi Chen was very clear that it wasn't that his sword burial art was inferior to his opponent's sword art, but that his time profound was lower. He was at 70% completion, while his opponent was at 80%. Although the difference of 10% did not seem big, when it came to martial arts, the difference would be hundreds or even thousands of times. In other words, his opponent's space-time sword art was hundreds or thousands of times more powerful than Yi Chen's sword burial art. They were not even on the same level. Of course, Yi Chen's Heaven Sword was a 7-star Earth Saint weapon, while his opponent's was a 6-star Earth Saint weapon. Looking at the situation, Yi Chen was naturally at a disadvantage, being suppressed by Ying Tianjie. Tianjie will win for sure. Seeing this, many young experts of the Unfalling Eagle tribe were very confident. The brat you brought back is not weak, but he doesn't seem to be Tianjie's opponent. In the tribe's palace, Ying Liexiong smiled lightly. Lan Yu said, "Father, don't look down on him. He hasn't used his true ultimate skill yet." "Oh, he still has ultimate skills? Just wait and see." Lan Yu was very confident in Yi Chen. Passively taking a beating was not Yi Chen's style. The sword burial art was also not his strongest sword technique. His strongest sword technique was the illusory sword form. For experts with weak heart power, the illusory sword form was their nemesis. Yi Chen didn't think that he could comprehend the heart power realm from the word martial. Even if he could comprehend it, he wouldn't have enough time. The difficulty would be very high. The Heaven Sword was brandished, and a sword light bubble spread out, instantly covering the entire plaza. Everyone within the range of the illusory sword form was affected by the illusion. What's going on? What happened? The young experts realized that they were alone in the void. They couldn't see anyone else, and the sky was filled with flashing sword lights. Occasionally, all sorts of strange scenes would appear. The illusory sword form would produce different illusions according to each person's personality. Ying Tianjie had a strong personality. The illusion he produced was an incomparably huge sword chi sweeping over. This sword chi seemed to want to split the entire prairie. It was unstoppable. Impossible, it's an illusion. Ying Tianjie was, after all, the #1 expert of the Unfalling Eagle tribe, the leader of the 4 heroes. He instantly retreated from the illusion, and what welcomed him was an ordinary sword light. In an extremely sorry state, Ying Tianjie blocked the sword light. However, in his haste, he did not have the time to gather his strength, and his entire body was sent flying. "Daddy, how was it?" Lan Yu said with a smile. Ying Liexiong nodded. "Not bad. This move uses speed to produce illusions. It can reflect everything in one's mind, including the subconscious. People without strong enough heart power will find it difficult to block this move. All right, I agree to let him replace the Unfalling Eagle tribe in the Desolate God Tower." "You agree?" Lan Yu said excitedly. "Call him over in a while. I have something to discuss with him." "It's not that simple." Ying Liexiong was rather interested in Yi Chen, but the test had just begun. With Yi Chen's current strength, he was not on par with the other 3 young experts. It would be difficult for him to even enter the top 5. Everything depended on whether he had potential. If he had enough potential, he still had enough time. Chapter 1352. Again. Ying Tianjie was extremely unconvinced. Yi Chen had not defeated him, he had only made him suffer a little. As long as he was not affected by the illusion, Yi Chen would definitely not be his match. Enough. At this moment, Ying Liexiong spoke. His voice spread to the plaza. Yes. No one dared to disobey the orders of the leader of the Unfalling Eagle tribe, not even Ying Tianjie. Unfalling Eagle tribe's main hall. "You are not bad. You are qualified to represent my Unfalling Eagle tribe in the Desolate God Tower." Ying Liexiong sized up Yi Chen and nodded to himself. Yi Chen felt extremely uncomfortable being stared at by the other party. The other party's eyes were like the sharpest scalpel in the world, able to see through all his secrets. Even his soul was under the other party's observation. Silver Martial Dao Yuan spirit, and not just a basic Silver Martial Dao Yuan spirit. The stronger the Martial Dao Yuan spirit, the more observant it was. It could see through all the secrets of others. It was said that if one could cultivate a gold Martial Dao Yuan spirit, they would not be far from becoming a true god. With a thought, they could cause the world to collapse and the opponent's body to disintegrate. "That would be my honor," Yi Chen said. Ying Liexiong smiled, "Very humble, but humble requires confidence. Lan Yu should have told you the details of the Desolate God Tower. This time, the details have been changed. Only those who reach the top 9 will receive a portion of time. First place will receive 2 portions. 1 portion is 10 years, 2 portions is 20 years. If you can reach the top 9, I can let you comprehend the word marshal for a year. If you reach first place, you can comprehend it for 2 years. What do you think? No problem. Yi-Chen nodded without the slightest hesitation. If it were someone else, they might think that the time was too little. However, Yi-Chen didn't think so. First, he didn't have the chance to participate in the first place. Even if he managed to obtain the amount of time for the unfalling eagle tribe, the others wouldn't be able to give him too much time to comprehend. Second, the tribe was so big, and everyone wanted to comprehend the martial character. If he had more time to comprehend it, the others would naturally have less time to do so. Under such circumstances, 1 or 2 years was already a luxury. It's not over yet. What I just said is without external help. However, with your strength, you can only reach the top 9. There is no hope for the first one, but I have a way for you to increase your strength even faster. The prerequisite is that the time you need to comprehend the word martial must be halved. Reach the top 9, comprehend the word martial for half a year. Reach first, comprehend the word martial for a year. What? Yi-Chen frowned. Liesheng explained, my unfalling eagle tribe possesses 13 words left behind by a demigod. I can let you comprehend these words. For example, your time ultimacy is only at the 70% comprehension realm. I have the time word left behind by a demigod. As long as your perception is not low, you can raise your time ultimacy realm before challenging the desolate god tower. Time? Yi-Chen's heart stirred. The time ultimacy was extremely difficult to raise. With the time word left behind by a demigod, there was indeed hope of raising the time ultimacy realm. All right. This was a rare opportunity. Yi-Chen did not believe that with his current strength, he would be able to reach first place. Being able to borrow external help was naturally a good thing. Are there any other words? There is still the guard word. However, there should not be enough time. In another year, the 100 years will be up. In this year, it would be impressive if you can comprehend a bit of the essence of the time word. Actually, Liesheng did not have much hope for Yi-Chen. The main reason was that he did not give Yi-Chen much time. He did not expect that only the top 9 would receive a portion of time. The first place would receive 2 portions. Yi-Chen, comprehend the time word first. Don't be too impatient. Lan Yu reminded Yi-Chen from the side. All right. Yi-Chen nodded. A year was a little too short. Be it the time word or the guard word, they were both very important to him. The time word could help him raise his time ultimacy. The guard word could help him perfect his 5 elements defensive sword techniques. If he could comprehend these 2 words, his combat strength would greatly increase. This is the time word. Comprehend it well. Also, I have arranged a courtyard for you. In the future, that will be your residence until you leave. Liesheng tossed a stone to Yi-Chen. On it was at the time word. Just 1 word could affect time. Yi-Chen could clearly see that the time around the stone had stopped flowing. It was like a pool of stagnant water. After Yi-Chen left, Liesheng said to Lan Yu, I have given him the chance. Now, it will depend on his comprehension. Lan Yu said, Father, Yi-Chen's comprehension is really high. He is much stronger than me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought him back. That is for the best. Right, tell me about what happened along the way. Liesheng and Lan Yu started to talk about daily life. In the courtyard, Yi-Chen did not waste any time and started to comprehend this time word. What a weird word. Yi-Chen found that once his consciousness entered the strange space of the time word, it stopped moving. He couldn't retract it even if he wanted to. He could only stay inside and watch. Time flew. Yi-Chen's time profound slowly improved. Because his consciousness couldn't leave, Yi-Chen continued to comprehend it. In the desolate god continent, if one didn't eat meat for a day, their strength would decrease. After a long time without meat, Yi-Chen was so skinny that he was just a bag of bones. His strength had decreased by 1 or 2%. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. Yi-Chen was so skinny that he didn't even look like a human. Lan Yu had been here once. Seeing Yi-Chen like this, She frowned for a long time. Now, she finally understood why her father didn't want her to be in a hurry to comprehend the time word. It turned out that comprehending the time word required a huge price. People with low comprehension couldn't even comprehend it. Otherwise, their consciousness would be stuck in it forever and they would die of exhaustion. Another month passed. So dangerous. Yi Chen's consciousness withdrew. The reason his consciousness could withdraw was because his time profound had reached 80% completion. To comprehend the time word, he had to improve his time profound before he could withdraw. Otherwise, his consciousness wouldn't be able to extricate itself. After recuperating for a week and eating a large amount of supreme meat, Yi Chen finally recovered his strength. With his time profound reaching 80% completion, the power of Yi Chen's sword burial art and death cut increased greatly. They were equivalent to great accomplishment sword moves. They weren't any weaker than Hegemon's sword style and illusory sword style. Especially the sword burial art, its power was even above illusory sword style. Illusory sword style used illusions to win, while sword burial art could make the opponent unable to move. Unless the opponent's time profound wasn't lower than Yi Chen's, and their heart power wasn't weak either. Still not enough. Yi Chen continued to comprehend the time word. The difference between time profound at 80% completion and time profound at 90% completion was like heaven and earth. 80% of time profound would allow the space-time sword art to have the power of a great accomplishment supreme sword art. 90% would be close to perfection. As for time profound at 100%, it would definitely surpass perfection's supreme sword arts. One had to know that time profound was the strongest in battle. It was a level stronger than the other complementary profounds. It could contend with the most ordinary supreme sword arts. Chapter 1353. I underestimated him. Ing Liexiong had been observing Yi Chen these days. He was shocked to see Yi Chen raise his time profound to 80% in just 4 months. He had thought that Yi Chen would be able to raise his time profound to the peak of 70% in a year. Usually, the peak of 70% time profound would allow his mind to leave the strange space. He was prepared to use some energy to maintain Yi Chen's vitality. This little girl's eyes are really good. She casually found a peerless genius. Compared to the outsider called Evil Star from the Star Sea tribe, this boy's talent is much higher. I hope he can fight for 2 portions of time for the Unfalling Eagle tribe. Maybe I can give him more time to comprehend the word martial. Days passed. The young experts of the 5 tribes were all preparing. Star Sea tribe. Evil Star, you must get first place for the Star Sea tribe this time. On an island surrounded by the sea, the leader of the Star Sea tribe and a young man stood side by side. The young man was very handsome, and there was an evil aura in his eyes. This evil aura was not acquired but innate. Members of the evil spirit race usually had this kind of evil aura. However, it was not as thick as the young man's. Evil Star smiled calmly. Leader, don't worry. I was careless last time. I didn't expect the Battle Tower tribe's battle bear to be as strong as me. With some effort, I can definitely surpass him. That's for the best. Don't worry. I can make it up to you if there are any consequences. Thank you, leader. Evil Star looked up at the sky. The leader of the Star Sea tribe beside him disappeared without a sound. It's been 300 years. I wonder when I can return to the outside world and the familiar universe. He had disappeared 700 years ago, but he had only been in the Wild's God continent for 300 years. In the past 400 years, he had fallen into a dangerous place and came to the Wild's God continent by chance. When I return to the universe, the evil spirit race will definitely rise. The demons can only be on equal footing with the evil spirit race. Evil Star was very ambitious. He wanted to control the entire evil spirit race and make it one of the strongest races in the universe. He would not be ranked behind the demons and the human race. He clenched his fists tightly, and a terrifying evil shadow appeared above his head. Descending from the middle of the clouds, he stood high above, overlooking the common people. On a cliff that was covered in drifting clouds, a young man with boundless charisma stood there with his hands clasped behind his back. He quietly stood there, yet it was as though he was the center of the world, the ruler of the universe. His aura contained a terrifying charm, causing those with lower cultivation bases to be involuntarily attracted to him, wanting to submit to him. His body contained a tyrannical aura, the aura of a king, the aura of a leader, and the aura of a supreme genius. It was extremely hard to describe. As expected of the great demon king bloodline, the essence of the demons. An old man floated over. He was the leader of Yunzhong tribe, Yun Piaomiao. Leader? The young man did not even turn his head. His posture was neither servile nor overbearing. From the looks of it, you should be very confident in the desolate God Tower. Confidence is an illusory thing. I only believe in strength. Yun Piaomiao did not mind the other party's arrogance. He was well aware of how frightening the great demon king bloodline was. The other party had not even been in the desolate God continent for 100 years, yet he already had the strength of a legend sovereign. This was simply unimaginable. It should be known that the other party was only at the 7th life and death realm when he first arrived. It's good that you have such confidence. However, the Battle Tower tribe's War Bear and the Redbud Flower tribe's Kong Shueli cannot be underestimated. They might also have the strength of a legend sovereign. The most noteworthy one is that young expert from the outside world called Evil Star. He should be a formidable opponent for you. Sovereign Evil Star. I've long wanted to defeat him, but I never had the chance. I'll let him know that there is only one genius in this world, and that's me. Yun Piaomiao chuckled. In truth, he was still not used to interacting with the great demon king bloodline. The Battle Tower tribe was filled with towers. A young man who was even more muscular than a bear was training with a metal tower. His body gave off an intense feeling, as if his body was a supreme weapon, indestructible. Every single hair on his body was sharper than any weapon. As long as it was activated, it could easily pierce through anything. This was a pure body training, even purer than Yi Chen's immortal sword body. As for which was better, it was hard to say. The metal tower was thrown to the ground, and the muscular young man jumped up and slapped the top of the metal tower. Kacha, the metal tower sank a little, and with another slap, the metal tower continued to sink. After a few hundred slaps, only the top of the metal tower was left above the ground. 99 missions have been completed for today. Only one left. The muscular young man muttered to himself. In the Redbud Flower tribe, women were respected. In this place, the experts were mostly women. Men were few and far between. Moreover, as vassals, the ones in charge were all women. The Redbud Flower tribe was surrounded by countless flowers. The entire Redbud Flower tribe seemed to be growing in the midst of countless flowers, inseparable from them. On the southern side, a woman was currently plucking flowers. The strange thing was that the flowers she plucked were not real flowers, but rather illusory images of flowers. 1-3. Very soon, the flowers in her hands became a bunch, filled with a myriad of colors and looked somewhat illusory. A female attendant walked over, and when she saw the flowers in the woman's hands, she was given a fright. This was because what she saw was not a bunch of flowers, but rather a bunch of sinister-looking snakes. Princess, the leader is asking for you. Okay, I'll be right there. The woman carried the flowers and followed behind the maid. Soon, the two of them arrived at the magnificent hall of the Redbud Flower tribe. In the main seat of the hall, a charming woman glanced at the flowers in the woman's hands. She couldn't help but smile. Shueli, seems like your heart force has reached another level. The woman casually tossed the flowers into the air. The illusions of the flowers instantly imprinted themselves on the walls on both sides of the hall, becoming vivid and lifelike murals. The word, heart, left behind by the demigod realm is extremely profound, second only to the word, martial. Recently, my comprehension of the word, heart, has reached a new level. That's for the best. Last time, my Violet Gold Flower tribe held the word, martial, for 30 years. This time, we'll fight for 40 years. In these 40 years, I'll give you 10 years so that your supreme martial arts can reach the perfection realm and your martial will can reach the 9th level. The higher one's comprehension of the profound of time, the harder it was to comprehend. This didn't mean that the profound of time was stronger than the profound of strength. The main reason was that the profound of time couldn't be separated from the profound of space, and the profound of space couldn't be separated from the profound of time. As the level of the profound of time increased, the power of time and space would become more and more terrifying. After another 6 months, Yichen finally raised his comprehension of the profound of time to 85%. Leave some time for the word guard. After his comprehension of the profound of time reached 80%, it was much easier to withdraw his consciousness. Yichen didn't intend to continue comprehending the word time. In the next 2 months, it would be hard for him to make any progress. He might as well use the time to comprehend the word guard, and try to raise the power of the 5 elements defensive sword art to the grand completion realm. This is the word guard for Ying Liexiong didn't refuse Yichen's request. On the contrary, he admired it. Most people would go crazy when they saw the word guard. How could they be as calm as Yichen? He left the rest of the time for the word guard. This was the best way to increase his strength. After obtaining the word guard, Yichen immediately entered the strange space. He didn't have much time left. He didn't dare to be certain that he could completely comprehend the essence of the word guard in 2 months. That was because it was even more profound than the words tyrant, comma, break, and illusion. But as long as he could comprehend 20 to 30% of it, it should be enough for it to become a grand completion supreme defensive sword art. A grand completion supreme defensive sword art was twice as important as a grand completion supreme offensive sword art. If the attack was high and the defense was weak, then others could find your flaws and defeat you. But if your defense was also high, then even if others found your flaws, it would be very difficult to defeat you. Offense was used to defeat others, while defense was used to protect oneself. Yi Chen's advantage was that he had the immortal sword body. With the immortal sword body and the guard, even ordinary legendary supremes wouldn't be able to do anything to Yi Chen. Chapter 1354. In the center of the wilderness god continent, there was an ancient pagoda. The pagoda was very high, reaching all the way to the clouds. It was a place that even legendary supremes could not reach. On the eaves of every floor of the pagoda, there were 4 bells. The bells did not move at all, and even when the wind blew, it did not move. On the signboard on the first floor of the pagoda, there were 2 words, Wilderness God. On this day, dozens of people from each of the 5 tribes flew towards the Wilderness God Pagoda. 10 of them were the young experts of the tribes. Among the people of the Unfalling Eagle tribe, Lan Yu whispered to Yi Chen, how much progress have you made in comprehending the word guard in 2 months? She was very clear about how terrifying Battle Bear, Kong Xueli, and Evil Star were. 100 years ago, the 3 of them were no weaker than Ying Tianjia. After 100 years, she really did not know what realm the 3 of them had reached. Perhaps they were already at the legendary supremes level. I have roughly comprehended 30 to 40% of its essence. Don't worry, my extreme prosperity decline has already reached the large success stage. With my defense, I still have a chance. In a short while, the group arrived beside the Wilderness God Pagoda. The Wilderness God Pagoda released a faint pressure that made everyone not dare to make any noise. The people of the Star Sea tribe, Battle Pagoda tribe, Redbud Flower tribe, and Yunzhong tribe arrived slightly later than the people of the Unfalling Eagle tribe. The leaders of the 5 tribes did not look around and did not exchange glances with each other. The young experts sized each other up. After all, they were the ones to enter the Wilderness God Pagoda, so they had to see if there were any new faces. Who is that black-robed young man from Yunzhong tribe? Why haven't I seen him before? He should be a rising genius from Yunzhong tribe. He looks extraordinary. I actually feel subservient to him. How is this possible? Some of the young experts were puzzled and did not dare to look at him again. It seemed that if they looked at him again, their fighting spirit would vanish. In the Star Sea tribe, Evil Star frowned slightly. The black-robed young man gave him quite a bit of pressure. Furthermore, he felt that he was very familiar, but he was sure that he had never seen him before. Who is it? That damned black-robed man. How could Evil Star not know that the black robe looked ordinary, but it was able to shield him from observation? Zhang Xiong and Kang Xueli were also sizing up the black-robed youth. Zhang Xiong's eyes burned like torches as he tried to penetrate the black robe. However, no matter how hard he tried, his gaze lingered outside the black robe. What kind of black robe is this? It can actually block my heaven-battling Dharma eyes. It shouldn't be a sage artifact. The Desolate God Tower does not allow sage artifacts to be used. The Desolate God Tower paid particular attention to absolute fairness. Hence, sage artifacts could not be used, only cardinal treasure weapons could be used. Kang Xueli closed her eyes. If someone with supreme heart force were here, they would definitely discover that a heart's eye had appeared in the void. This heart's eye was currently observing the black-robed young man. Heart's eye. The black-robed young man's heart stirred. When one's heart force reached an extremely high level, the heart's eye would be born. The heart's eye was more powerful than any other eye. It could observe down to the smallest detail and would not be affected in any way. The black-robed young man had the bloodline of the great demon king, but he believed that his heart force realm was inferior to Kang Xueli's. Of course, although his heart force realm was inferior, he could still interfere. In the next moment, the black robe fluttered without any wind. A distorted heart force appeared on it, causing the heart's eye to be unable to see anything unless Kang Xueli stubbornly wanted to see through it. However, it was clear that Kang Xueli had given up. Since the other party did not want others to know his identity, he definitely had a way to prevent others from observing him. At this moment, the black-robed young man's expression changed slightly. A pair of eyes had seen through his black robe. Following the source of the gaze, the black-robed young man saw Yi Chen of the Unfalling Eagle tribe. The two's gazes met. Yi Chen's netherworld sacred eye contained the will of hell. It could see through all secrets. Demonic energy, extremely pure demonic energy. Could it be the bloodline of the legendary Great Demon King? Yi Chen had never seen such pure demonic energy. Compared to the other party, the heavenly demon sovereign was like a firefly compared to the sun and moon. It was not even worth mentioning. Even the dark witch or dark goddess could not compare to such pure demonic energy. Yi Chen could not think of any other possibility. The only explanation was the bloodline of the great demon king. Yi Chen. The black-robed young man knew Yi Chen. It was also thanks to Yi Chen that he came to the Wild's God continent. The outside world was different from the Wild's God continent. It was very difficult to become a supreme in the outside world, but it was much easier in the Wild's God continent. However, for the great demon king bloodline, it was the same everywhere. The only difference was that there was Yi Chen in the outside world. Yi Chen became a supreme first and was invincible among the young experts in the world. As for the black-robe young man, he was born too late. The first opportunity was seized by Yi Chen. It was difficult for him to suppress Yi Chen in the outside world. As a great demon king bloodline, he could not allow others to suppress him. Therefore, he was sent to the Wild's God continent by the demons through a special method. He wanted to establish his own mountain on the Wild's God continent and then return to the universe in an invincible manner to completely suppress Yi Chen. But what would come would come. The two met on the Wild's God continent. Since everyone is here, let's begin. Chen Tianding, the leader of the Yunzhong tribe, said. The leaders of the 4 tribes nodded. The 10 of you do your best. Do not have any distracting thoughts. Ing Liexiong instructed Yi Chen's group. Go! Each tribe sent 10 young experts. A total of 50 young experts entered the first level of the Wild's God Tower. The Wild's God Tower had its own universe. The 50 young experts entered, but after entering, they were not together. This was a unique space. Yi Chen looked ahead and saw a lump of flesh squirming. Soon, the flesh turned into a member of the desolate race. He held a large saber and charged at Yi Chen. The sword in Yi Chen's hand was not the sky sword. In the Wild's God Tower, one could not use a sage artifact. He could only use a supremacy weapon. This sword was given to him by Ing Liexiong, the Heavenly Star Sword. It was a grade 5 supremacy sword. Yi Chen killed his opponent in one strike. The opponents on the first level of the Wild's God Tower were very weak. Yi Chen estimated that they were roughly equivalent to the weakest ordinary supremacy. Any genius supremacy could instantly kill him. The second level, the third level, with every level, the opponent's strength would increase. Soon, Yi Chen reached the 400th level. Ding-ling-ling. Outside, the bell rang crazily. Every time the bell rang, it meant that someone had passed that level. To the 50 young experts, the first few hundred levels were not difficult at all. It was just a matter of who was faster and who was slower. Finally, one person was eliminated. It was a young expert from the Battle Pagoda tribe. When this young expert saw that he was the first to be eliminated, his face turned ashen. The blow was too great. He knew that his strength was not much, but to be the first to be eliminated was too embarrassing. The Battle Pagoda tribe's leader snorted coldly and ignored him. Chapter 1355. After the 500th floor, more and more people were eliminated. After half a day, a total of 24 people had been eliminated. 3 from the Redbud Flower tribe, 5 from the Battle Pagoda tribe, 6 from the Yunzhong tribe, 4 from the Star Sea tribe, and 6 from the Unfalling Eagle tribe. In terms of overall strength, the Redbud Flower tribe was clearly superior. At this moment, Yi Chen had already reached the 600th floor. He was one of the fastest. From the 600th floor onwards, the Desolate Spirit already had the strength of a quasi-legend sovereign. It was no longer something that could be easily dealt with. Fortunately, the Desolate Spirit in the Desolate God Tower only needed to deal a certain amount of damage to pass. There was no need to completely annihilate the opponent. Of course, there was no chance of completely annihilating the Desolate Spirit. After parrying the Desolate Spirit's attack, Yi Chen thrust the Heavenly Star Sword forward. The sword beam pierced through the Desolate Spirit's forehead. When fighting against a true quasi-legend sovereign, this strike would definitely not be able to take the opponent's life. It would even be difficult to injure the opponent. One would need to use a supreme sword technique. However, against a Desolate Spirit, there was no need to be so particular. The 601st floor. The 620th floor. The 675th floor. After passing through floor after floor, Yi Chen successfully surpassed the previous Desolate God Tower's highest score of the 655th floor. However, this result was nothing. Now, even Lan Yu had surpassed the previous Desolate God Tower's highest score. 100 years had passed, and everyone had made great progress. It would be strange if they stagnated. Among them, the black-robed youth was the fastest. He had already reached the 685th floor, followed by Kang Xueli, who had reached the 682nd floor. Evil Star had reached the 680th floor. War Xiong was slightly lower than Yi Chen, at the 672nd floor. As for the others, they were not as lucky. If they were not eliminated, they were in a deadlock. They could not defeat the Desolate Spirit in a short period of time, but they were unwilling to be eliminated. The crystal tablet at the entrance of the first floor of the Desolate God Tower displayed a row of images. The first was the black-robed youth's image. Behind the image was the number 685, indicating that he had passed the 685th floor. The second was Kang Xueli. There were a total of 50 people's images. Yi Chen was ranked 4th, and the last person had only reached the 425th floor. He was the first young expert from the Battle Pagoda tribe to be eliminated. Of the 50 images, 15 were colored and the rest were gray. Colored meant that they were still trying, and gray meant that they had quit. Titan, looks like it will be very difficult for your Battle Pagoda tribe's battle bear to get first place this time. Chen Tianding, the leader of the Star Sea tribe, looked at Titan with a smile. War Pagoda was ranked 5th. Tai Tan coldly snorted, "That's not necessarily true. War Bear's offense and defense are balanced. His speed in the tower might not be the fastest, but he is definitely the steadiest." But images. After 2 hours, there were only 9 images left. These 9 images were the top 9. The Unfalling Eagle tribe's leader, Ing Liexiong, had an ugly expression on his face. Ing Tianjie had actually been eliminated and did not enter the top 9. In the previous Desolate God Tower, he had made it to 5th place, earning some time for the Unfalling Eagle tribe. Lan Yu was eliminated along with Ying Tianjie. Although Lan Yu's strength was not weak, she was still too inexperienced. She was unable to make it into the top 9. If not for Yi Chen standing in front of them, the Unfalling Eagle tribe would have lost a lot of face. Ying Tianjie's face alternated between green and white. He did not even dare to look at Ying Liexiong. This time he had suffered a huge blow. It was a bigger blow than losing to Yi Chen. Losing to Yi Chen was a personal honor, but not making it into the top 9 was the tribe's honor. Leader, I will definitely work hard next time. Ying Tianjie braced himself and said, Don't say any more. Ying Liexiong waved his hand. He was a bit lucky. Luckily, had brought Yi Chen back. Otherwise, the Unfalling Eagle tribe would have been completely annihilated. They would not even be able to fight for a single time. The leader of Yunzhong tribe, Yun Piaomiao, smiled and said to Ying Liexiong, Your Unfalling Eagle tribe is quite lucky. There is actually one more person in the top 9. Ying Liexiong sneered, Don't be happy too early. As long as he can make it to 1st place, the Unfalling Eagle tribe will still get 2 shares. 2 shares was equivalent to 20 years. It was an average. It was neither a profit nor a loss. If he can make it to 1st place, I will lose 3 divine stones to you. How about that? Yun Piaomiao made a bet. Ying Liexiong said without hesitation, Remember to keep your word. Don't worry. With so many people here, of course I will keep my word. But what if he doesn't make it to 1st place? At most, I will give you 3 divine stones. It's a deal. The two made the bet and then ignored each other, quietly watching the changes in the rankings. 685, 686, 687, 690, 695. 700. The black-robed youngster, who was ranked 1st, rushed to the 700th floor in one breath. One had to know that the 700th floor and above corresponded to the strength of the legendary supremes. Moreover, looking at the black-robed youngster's speed, it was very average. It seemed like he didn't encounter any obstacles. This was completely different from passing one floor in half a day. So powerful. He actually made it to the 700th floor. Could it be that he can fight against the legendary supremes? Although the young experts of Yunzhong tribe had seen the black-robed youngster before, they weren't too familiar with him. Moreover, they had been defeated by him before. At this moment, they realized that the black-robed youngster's strength was much stronger than theirs. He had never fought against them seriously before. Naturally, he can fight against the legendary supremes if he made it to the 700th floor. However, he should just be an ordinary legendary supremes. Let's see how many floors he can reach, Yun Lai, who used to be the top young expert of Yunzhong tribe, said. Yun Piaomiao looked at Ying Liexiong proudly. The bloodline of the great demon king was so terrifying. There was no doubt that he would be ranked 1st. Ying Liexiong's expression changed slightly. As a legendary supremes, he could tell that this wasn't the black-robed youngster's limit. He looked down. Kong Xueli, who was ranked 2nd, had made it to the 695 floor. Evil Star had made it to the 690 floor. Yi Chen had made it to the 688 floor. It wasn't too bad. Father, don't worry. Yi Chen's physical defense is very strong. Lan Yu reminded Ying Liexiong. Yes. Ying Liexiong nodded slightly. Although a high defense didn't mean that he was fast, he could at least resist. As for the black-robe youngster, his attacks must be very strong. Soon, Kong Xueli had also made it to the 700th floor. Kong Siwei, the leader of the Redbud Flower tribe, smiled. Being ranked 1st now didn't mean that she would be ranked 1st in the future. She was very confident in Xueli. Unknowingly, there were only 5 people left in the Desolate God Tower. The other 4 had been eliminated. Everyone was paying attention to their rankings and the floors they had passed. Chapter 1356. Following that, Evil Star also reached the 700th floor. This meant that 3 out of the 5 had the strength of a legendary supremacy. It was unknown if Yi Chen and Warbear could reach the 700th floor. Everyone in the Unfalling Eagle tribe held their breaths. Whether Yi Chun could reach the first place was very important to them. If he could not, they would only get a portion of time, which was 10 years. It was too little. Of course, this could not be blamed on Yi Chun. The 3 people before him were too abnormal. Everyone in the Battle Pagoda tribe had grave expressions. They did not expect the competition to be so intense. 695. 696. 697. 698. Lan Yu felt that she had stopped breathing. She stared at Yi Chen's number of floors. 699. 700. Yeah. Lan Yu shouted. Ing Liexiong let out a sigh of relief. There was a huge difference between reaching the 700th floor and not reaching the 700th floor. Reaching the 700th floor meant that Yi Chen also had the power of a legend-rank supreme warrior, and there would be more competition after that. Yun Piaomiao, the leader of the Yunzhong tribe, snorted coldly. He thought to himself, I have underestimated this kid. Outsiders really cannot be underestimated. After that, War Bear also reached the 700th floor. Tai Tan, the leader of the Battle Pagoda tribe, did not have any expression on his face. He already knew that War Bear had the strength of a legendary supremacy. Reaching the 700th floor was expected, so there was no need to make a fuss about it. In the blink of an eye, the 5 had been fighting in the desolate God Tower for 3 days and 3 nights. The closer one's strength was, the harder it was to defeat the other. This was because they were in the desolate God Tower. If they were in the outside world, if 2 opponents of similar strength wanted to completely defeat the other, they might not be able to determine the victor even after several days and nights. At the moment, the black-robed youth was still in first place. He had reached the 718th floor. Kong Xueli was second, 715th floor. Evil Star was third, 712th floor. Yi Chen was 4th, 710th floor. War Bear was 5th, 706th floor. The gap between the 5 had shrunk a little. The slowest and fastest were only separated by 12 floors. Another 2 days passed, and none of the 5 were eliminated. The black-robed youngster cleared 725 levels, Kong Xueli 723, Evil Star 721, Yi Chen 720, and War Bear 718. The gap between the 2 had shrunk even further. The main reason was that the desolate spirit would grow stronger the further it went, and the longer it would take to defeat its opponent. On the 721st floor, Yi Chen brandished the heavenly star sword in his hand. He did his best to search for the desolate spirit's weak points. At this stage, he had no choice but to bring out his full strength. After fighting for 5 days and 5 nights, his mind, chi, and spirit were all focused. He had already fought to the point of forgetting himself. Dang dang dang. Sparks flew everywhere. Not only was Desolate Spirit's offense and defense powerful, but its combat techniques were also flawless. If one wanted to find an opening, one would have to take the initiative to force it to reveal one. Got it. After exchanging several thousand blows, Yi Chen finally found a small opening and pierced his sword through Huang Ling's throat. The 722nd floor. Daddy, Yi Chen passed another floor? Lan Yu said excitedly to Ing Liexiong. Ing Liexiong sighed. A year ago, Yi Chen's strength was far inferior to his current strength. Who would have thought that in just a year he would improve so much? If he comprehended the word martial, how strong would he be? Ing Liexiong didn't even dare to think about it. How could this be? Ing Tianjie was dumbfounded. Before, he was not convinced of Yi Chen's strength. But at this moment, he no longer had any intention or fighting spirit to find trouble with Yi Chen. 5 heroes contending for supremacy, but only one can look down on the others. This really makes one's blood boil. The leader of the Star Sea tribe, Chen Tianding, sighed. The 723rd floor, the 724th floor. Yi Chen steadily advanced. A day later he reached the 727th floor. But while he was improving, the others weren't slow either. The black-robed youth was the first to pass the 730th floor. Kong Xueli reached the 728th floor. Xie Xing and Yi Chen were both at the 727th floor. War Bear was gradually pulled away from him. He was now at the 723rd floor. This wasn't to say that War Bear was weak. It was mainly because he was the type to attack head-on. It was difficult to defeat him, but it was also difficult for him to defeat others. I'm almost at my limit. Xie Xing did not know how the others were doing, but he was almost at his limit. Evil reincarnation. An evil phantom image appeared behind him. As the phantom image entered his body, Xie Xing's combat strength immediately skyrocketed. This was a terrifying mystic technique that dealt 1,000 damage to the enemy and 800 damage to oneself. The 730th floor, the 731st floor, the 732nd floor. Xie Xing reached the 735th floor in one go. He officially surpassed the black-robed youth and became first. Unfortunately, the side effects of using evil reincarnation came. With a moment of carelessness, Xie Xing was eliminated from the Desolate God Tower. When he walked out of the Desolate God Tower, Xie Xing specially glanced at the crystal stone monument. He frowned. He was indeed first, but the other four were still inside. Well done. The leader of the Star Sea tribe, Chen Tianding, said to Xie Xing. Xie Xing did not say a word. His eyes stared intently at the black-robed youth's number of floors. He was now at the 733rd floor, only 2 floors away from his first place. Don't worry. They are basically at their limits. You have at least a 50% chance of obtaining first place. Chen Tianding was more worried about the black-robed youth. He hid his strength very well. He wanted to ask the leader of the Yunzhong tribe, Yun Piaomiao, but the black-robed youth did not say anything. Just as Chen Tianding had expected, the black-robed youngster had been stuck on the 733rd floor for a long time. It was obvious that he had reached a critical point. Kong Xueli and Yi Chen were also at the critical point. On the other hand, the War Bear was climbing up step by step. In terms of offense and defense, no one could compete with him. The second to be eliminated was Kong Xueli. She was very strong. She had forcefully made it to the 734th floor. Clearly, she had used all her strength to temporarily surpass the black-robe youth. When she came out, her expression was ugly. However, she quickly regained her composure. Since she could not obtain first place, there was no longer any meaning to her ranking. Fortunately, the Redbud Flower tribe still led the way. 3 people made it into the top 9, earning 3 portions of the time. It was obvious that they had profited. The third to be eliminated was War Bear, which was out of everyone's expectations. They all thought that the third to be eliminated would be Yi Chen. War Bear's offense and defense were strong. He was very resilient. War Bear was eliminated one day after Kong Xueli. He had passed 1 floor less than Kong Xueli, reaching the 733rd floor. Unlucky. War Bear shook his head, feeling very depressed. Ring, ring, ring. A bell rang out. The black-robed young man had reached the 734th level. He had spent too much time on the 733rd level. Although no one could see what was going on inside, they could guess that he must have experienced a bitter battle before he finally made it through. Now, the black-robed youth was only 1 floor away from Xie Xing's floor. As for Yi Chen, he was still ranked 5th. War Bear had used his trump card at the last moment and surpassed him. His current number of floors was the 732th floor. Chapter 1357. In order to pass the 732th level, Yi Chen had used all his skills. He had basically been defending for half a day before launching a counterattack. It could be said that comprehending the word guard and the immortal sword body accounted for 90% of the credit for Yi Chen reaching the 732th level. As for his attacks, although his time profound had reached 85% completion, his sword burial art was much stronger than tyrant sword form and illusory sword form, and his death cleave was slightly stronger than tyrant sword form and illusory sword form. The desolate spirit on this level was too monstrous. Its attacks were much stronger than Yi Chen's. Yi Chen could only slowly turn the situation around and find an opportunity to counterattack. Yi Chen didn't know how many levels the others had reached, but he knew that the great Demon King's bloodline was definitely above his. This was an intuition without any reason. The great demon king's bloodline was the legendary bloodline of the demons. Their bloodline contained limitless potential that would never be exhausted. Once the great demon king's bloodline appeared, no matter how amazing a genius was, they would be overshadowed. Since ancient times, it wasn't that there weren't any geniuses that could compete with Yi Chen, but there were almost none that could surpass the great demon king's bloodline. Some people said that the great demon king's bloodline was the pinnacle of bloodlines in the world. They appeared to accept the worship and fear of the world. Continue to persevere. Whether it was for himself or for the future of the human race, Yi Chen felt that he couldn't give up now. Once he gave up, it would be difficult to compete with the great demon king's bloodline or even surpass it. Dang 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 dang. The desolate spirit on the 733 level was suppressing Yi Chen. Yi Chen wanted to counterattack several times, but he was suppressed by the desolate spirit. There was no chance for him to counterattack. Every time he tried his best to defend, it made Yi Chen's mind tense. He was very clear that as long as he made a mistake, the desolate spirit would find an opportunity to eliminate him. I can't hold on any longer. Although Yi Chen gritted his teeth and persevered, he had reached his limit. Pwah! Yi Chen's defense finally broke as the desolate spirit cleaved off Yi Chen's left arm. Blood splattered all over Yi Chen's face. In the blink of an eye, the desolate spirit's second strike came at Yi Chen's head. This strike was unavoidable for Yi Chen. In the extreme danger, Yi Chen's expression changed. He seemed to have returned to the strange space where he saw a human figure continuously performing defensive sword arts. Before entering the desolate god tower, due to the short time, he only had 2 months to comprehend it. Therefore, he had only managed to comprehend 30 to 40% of the essence. However, right now, some of the essence of the word defend had appeared in his mind out of nowhere. It was imprinted in the deepest part of his soul like a slow-motion video. So you can defend like this? Yi Chen was deep in thought. Time seemed to have slowed down, and Yi Chen subconsciously rotated his right arm. Dang, the heavenly star sword blocked Huang Ling's saber, and he borrowed the force of Huang Ling's saber, causing Huang Ling's saber to strike him instead. True defense was not a single-minded defense. Defense also contained offense. It was just like how yin and yang did not grow alone. Defense was at its peak, while offense was at its peak. When offense reached the pinnacle, it also contained defense. It was the same principle. With his understanding of the word defend, it became much easier for Yi Chen to deal with the desolate spirit. Most of the power that the desolate spirit exerted was diverted away by Yi Chen, causing a backlash on the desolate spirit. A saber light flashed. Yi Chen was fine, but Huang Ling's head flew up. Level 733 passed. Level 734. The black-robed youth was covered in blood. After all, he was still too young. Although he had limitless potential, he faced the same predicament as Yi Chen, which was that he did not have enough time. If he had another 100 years, not to mention level 734, he was confident that he could even pass level 800. This is also my chance. The great Demon King bloodline is an invincible bloodline. As long as there is enough pressure, I will definitely be able to make a breakthrough. Time to break through. The black-robed youth forgot everything as he punched out crazily. Every punch brought with it a dazzling black brilliance, like a black meteor flashing across the pitch-black starry sky. His punches became faster and more tyrannical. Finally, the black-robed youth's aura soared. Break! When his aura soared to the limit, the black-robed youth's fist force increased to an unimaginable level. When he punched out, space trembled. Huang Ling was sent flying, and a huge crater appeared in his chest. Level 734 passed. Following that, the black-robed youth passed level 735, his result tied with Evil Star. How is this possible? Their speed suddenly increased. Outside the desolate god tower, everyone was dumbfounded. Originally, they thought that the two had reached their limits. Who knew that Yi Chen's speed would increase first, and then the black-robed youth's speed would increase as well. They broke through. Ying Liexiong spat out a turbid breath. These two youths were too stunning. Compared to them, Ying Tianjie was like comparing a firefly to the sun and moon. Are these the people from the outside world? Tai Tan, the leader of the Battle Pagoda tribe, frowned. The number of supremes in the outside world was countless times less than the desolate god continent, but there were some terrifying peerless geniuses like the black-robed youth, Yi Qin, and Evil Star. Damn it! Who is he? Evil Star could not guess the black-robed youth's identity. Time passed quickly, and soon, the black-robed youngster reached the 736th step, officially surpassing Evil Star. Behind him, Yi Qin also reached the 735th step. This is too easy. Yi Qin borrowed the opponent's strength to fight. Even if the opponent's attack was stronger than his, less than 30% of the attack was effective. The remaining 70% was all transferred by Yi Qin to the opponent. Level 736. Level 737. Level 740. This was the first time Yi Qin felt that defense could be so powerful and domineering. It was simply invincible. No matter how strong the opponent's attack was, unless it was too much stronger, it could be transferred back. Even if it couldn't be transferred back, it could still easily dissipate half of the force. If I can comprehend the entire essence of the word defend, it should be even easier. Yi Qin estimated that he had roughly comprehended 70% to 80% of the essence of the word defend. If Yi Qin had made a breakthrough in his defense, then the black-robed youth had made a breakthrough in his offense. His extreme offense allowed him to be unstoppable. However, it also proved that one could not last long. No matter how strong one's offense was, if one could not defeat the opponent in an instant, then it would be time to test one's defense. Clearly, the black-robed youth's defense was not as good as Yi Qin's. He had just used his offense to cover up this weakness. Poochie! The black-robed youth was split into two by the saber strike. His result was the 745th level. As he walked out of the desolate god tower, his heart skipped a beat. Yi Qin had not come out yet, and the projection was still colored. He had only cleared level 743. The Desolate Spirit Saber technique in the next two levels is very domineering. Let's see how you clear them. Thinking of how terrifying the 744 and 745 levels were, the black-robed youth calmed down. Chapter 1358. Just as the black-robed young man had said, the Desolate Spirit on the 744th level was extremely monstrous. Its blade art was unbelievably tyrannical. Every time it slashed out, there would be a thunderous explosion. 5 colored lightning flashed on the treasured blade, like 5 different colored lightning dragons converging together, bursting out with a blade energy that could destroy all life. Ding. As soon as they clashed, Yi Qin immediately felt that something was wrong. The opponent's blade art was too exquisite and overbearing. His own sword stance was at its peak and then declined. No, it should be called the defensive sword stance. Although the defensive sword stance was much stronger than ordinary great success supreme sword arts, it had not reached the level of a perfect supreme martial art. Moreover, the Desolate Spirit's blade art was not far from perfection. In terms of maturity, it was no weaker than the defensive sword stance. Yi Qin had no way to borrow strength to counter it. Sword burial art. Switching from defense to offense, Yi Qin stabbed towards the oncoming Desolate Spirit. Thousands of petals fluttered in the air, and the Desolate Spirit's movements became slower and slower. Finally, it froze in the void. But just as Yi Qin was about to stab it, the Desolate Spirit's body trembled and slid away like a fish, avoiding the sword. The Desolate Spirit on this level had incredible heart force. It could be immune to 90% of the power of space and time. The power of the heart surpassed everything. As long as the heart was strong enough, there was really nothing that could restrain it. In the end, Yi Qin relied on the defensive sword stance to defeat the Desolate Spirit. After all, the Desolate Spirit's attacks could not break the defensive sword stance. Yi Qin could use the defensive sword stance to block when the Desolate Spirit attacked, and then wait for an opportunity to counterattack. And when the Desolate Spirit faced Yi Qin's attacks, it could only block or dodge again and again. There was bound to be a flaw. The 745th level. This level of Desolate Spirit was equivalent to an enhanced version of the previous level. The blade technique seemed to have surpassed Yi Qin's defensive sword form. The penetration of the Thunderblade force was extremely strong. Fortunately, Yi Chen's immortal sword body was not weak either. Even if the defensive sword form could not offset all the blade force, the immortal sword body could still barely withstand it. Outside the desolate god tower, the black-robed youth's expression turned gloomy. He was just one level away and Yi Chen's results would be the same as his. Originally, he did not think much of Yi Chen, thinking that it was only natural for him to surpass him. However, now he could faintly feel that Yi Chen would be his greatest opponent in this life, a formidable opponent. After 12 hours, Yi Chen passed the 745th floor. After spending a day, Yi Chen passed the 746th floor. When he reached the 747th floor, Yi Chen's defensive sword stance collapsed. It could not be defended at all. The Desolate Spirit's blade technique had reached the level of a perfected supreme blade technique. With just one strike, Yi Chen's defensive sword stance was broken. With the second strike, Yi Chen was sent flying. With the third strike, Yi Chen was cleaved in half. It was a clean and efficient move. Finally, Yi Chen reached the 746th floor, one level higher than the black-robed youth. We won! Lan Yu cried out in excitement. We really won! Ing Liexiong was also very happy. It was not easy for him to obtain first place. At least, he did not embarrass the Unfalling Eagle tribe. He decided to give all the 3 divine stones from the bet with Yun Miao Miao to Yi Chen. After all, they had benefited greatly from Yi Chen. The time to comprehend the Wu character was also given to Yi Chen. Originally it was 1 year, but now it was 2 years. No more. He had to comprehend the Wu character, Lan Yu also had to comprehend the Wu character, and some of the elders of the Unfalling Eagle tribe also had to comprehend the Wu character. Yi Chen obtaining first place was out of everyone's expectations. The leaders of the other 4 tribes were a little indignant. Yun Miao Miao, when will you give me my 3 divine stones? Ing Liexiong said. Yun Miao Miao's heart was filled with hatred. He originally thought that the great Demon King bloodline would definitely be able to get first place, but who knew that there would be a time when the bloodline could not compete with others? 3 divine stones was not a small number. Even if it was him, he would have to spend a lot of effort and time to obtain it. But as the leader of a rank 8 tribe, he still wanted to save face. I only have 2 divine stones here. The remaining one, I'll give it to you in the future. As he spoke, Yun Miao Miao took out 2 divine stones from his storage ring and threw them to Ing Liexiong. No rush. I, Ing Liexiong, am not a stingy person. The remaining one, you can give it to me in 1 year. Ing Liexiong stated the time limit of 1 year. Otherwise, who knew how long the other party would drag it out for? Ing Liexiong, you really hid yourself well. You managed to find an outside genius to help you without making a sound. The leader of Star Ocean Tribe, Chen Tianding, looked at Yi Chen with interest and said to Ing Liexiong, Luck. Ing Liexiong laughed. Let's go. The Battle Tower Tribe's Tai Tan turned around and left with a dark face. This time, the Battle Tower Tribe only had 1 person in the top 9, which was the tribe with the least amount of time. Brother, let's spar when we have time. The Battle Bear did not really care about this result, so he sent a message to Yi Chen before leaving. Evil Star looked at the young man in black robes and then at Yi Chen, his brows furrowed. He did not know where these 2 came from, but he had a feeling that they would have countless conflicts in the future. I, Evil Star Supreme, have dominated the world for so many years. I will not give up easily. For the first time, Evil Star felt that he had not worked hard enough before. If these 2 had appeared earlier, perhaps his power would have been even higher, because only with competition would he have the will to fight. Interesting, but this is what makes it challenging. With the bloodline of the great Demon King, the black-robed young man did not have any weaknesses. It was the same for his temperament. Losing to Yi Chen did not make him feel any negative emotions. This only stimulated his potential. Since ancient times, there had been many astounding geniuses. The bloodline of the great Demon King could not gain the upper hand from the beginning, but the final victor was undoubtedly the bloodline of the great Demon King. Continue working hard. The stronger you are, the stronger I will be. The black-robed young man was like a black bolt of lightning, disappearing on the spot. After the people from the 4 major tribes left, the people from the Unsetting Eagle tribe also began their journey back to the Unsetting Eagle tribe. On the crystal tablet at the entrance of the first level of the Wilderness God Tower, the 50 images gradually disappeared. The top 3 flickered. According to the rules, the first tribe would be the first to obtain the word Wu. Previously, Yunzhong tribe was the last to obtain the word Wu. Therefore, the next day, Yunzhong tribe's leader, Yun Piaomiao, sent the word Wu over. Yichen was not in a hurry to comprehend the word Wu. He planned to first comprehend the word time and guard. According to the literal meaning of the word Wu, it contained the ultimate profoundness of martial arts. Without sufficient preparation, it would be very strenuous to comprehend it. 2 years might be a waste of time. After spending an entire year, Yichen finally comprehended the time ultimacy to the 90% realm. However, in the following months, it was difficult for him to progress further. It turned out that after the time ultimacy reached the 90% realm, he needed to raise his martial Dao Yuan soul to the silver rank if he wanted to continue comprehending it. The power of space and time, which was formed by the combination of the time ultimacy and space ultimacy, was the strongest power. It was not easy to control it. With the time ultimacy at the 90% realm, Yichen's sword burial art had finally reached perfection. It was a truly perfected supreme sword move. With one strike, 3,000 flower petals danced. Chapter 1359. After passing the word to Ing Liexiong, Yichen began to comprehend the word defend. Yichen had already comprehended 70 to 80% of the word's essence, only lacking the last 20 to 30%. As long as he comprehended this 20 to 30%, he would be able to reach the level of a perfect supreme defensive sword technique. In the strange space of the word defend, the silhouette displayed the defensive sword technique again and again. Every time he displayed the defensive sword technique, Yichen would gain some insights. Defense is just a goal. The process does not need to be blindly defensive. One can borrow strength to fight strength, one can retreat to advance, one can advance to retreat, one can meet force with force, one can change hardness to softness, one can use softness to overcome hardness. The process is ever-changing, but the result is the same, which is to block the enemy's attack. Leaving the strange space of the word defend, Yichen took out the heavenly star sword and began to practice. In the past, when Yichen used the sword technique, the 5-colored sword light would form a huge ball of light to protect Yichen. Now, when Yichen used the sword technique, the sword light would change from visible to invisible, from colored to colorless, but once it entered the range of the sword technique, it would be out of control. The sword energy would surge, making it hard for people to tell what was real and what was fake. Instead, it was 10 to 100 times stronger than the huge ball of light formed by the 5-colored sword light. On this day, Ing Liexiong arrived nearby, excited to see his prey. Ing Liexiong punched at Yichen. Be careful. Ing Liexiong was a top expert among the legendary supremes. His fist energy was vast. Even if it was just a casual attack, it would far surpass the desolate spirit on the 747th floor of the desolate God Tower. Before the fist energy arrived, Yichen's sword technique had already fluctuated, like a tsunami crashing over, wanting to destroy all of his defenses. Retreat to advance, use softness to overcome hardness, turn hardness to softness, meet force with force, advance to retreat, borrow strength to fight strength. Almost subconsciously, Yichen took a series of measures. First, he avoided the sharpness of the fist power, avoiding the most powerful attacking point of the fist power. Then he softened his sword power, using softness to defeat the toughness. When the fist power weakened a bit, his sword power suddenly became more aggressive. He took the posture of advancing as if he was retreating. Finally, he used the power of the fist power to counterattack, which dissolved most of the fist power. Although the remaining part of the fist power could not be dissolved, the damage it brought was reduced by hundreds of times. Alright, this defensive sword stance of yours is almost at perfection, right? Ing Liexiong praised. He had only used 1/10,000th of his strength in that punch. It should be known that he was different from Yichen. Yi Chen's battle prowess had only reached the legendary supreme level, while he had reached the legendary supreme level in all aspects. In every aspect he was far superior to Yi Chen. Therefore, even if it was just 1/10,000th of his strength, not everyone would be able to withstand it. Just a little more. Yi Chen let out a breath and looked at Ing Lai Xiong. There's no rush. Cultivating martial arts isn't something that can be done in a day. Sometimes, you need to gain enlightenment. Yes, the leader is right. How could Yi Chen not understand? Right now, his defensive sword stance was infinitely close to perfection, but it was just lacking a little bit. Yi Chen had a feeling that if he wanted to reach perfection, he had to grasp the principle of returning to the origin. It was like a whirlpool in the deep sea. It didn't matter if it was a glacier or a tsunami, as long as the whirlpool was big enough, it would be able to swallow everything and dissolve everything. When are you preparing to comprehend the word, Wu? Lan Yu has already comprehended it for almost a year. When the year is up, we will decide on the next person to comprehend it. Ing Lai Xiong asked. Yi Chen thought for a while and said, then it's my turn. Who knows, I might be able to comprehend the essence of the word, defend. All right. Ing Lai Xiong nodded. Very quickly, Lan Yu came out of seclusion. On the first day, she came to find Yi Chen and wanted to spar with him. Yi Chen, you need to be careful. This time, comprehending the word, Wu, has allowed my blade techniques to improve by leaps and bounds. All of them have reached perfection. Just bring it on. Yi Chen smiled. Revolving blade wheel. Lan Yu used a powerful blade technique right from the start. The spiraling blade light swept around crazily. Compared to the past, revolving blade wheel's charging time was shorter, and the explosion was fiercer. Using Overlord sword stance, Yi Chen blocked it with his sword. Clang clang clang. Overlord sword stance was also a great perfection sword technique, and it was evenly matched with revolving blade wheel. When the blade and sword clashed, sparks flew everywhere. Overlord blade chop. Void-breaking blade. Illusionary moon blade. Lan Yu's ultimate moves were frequent. Every move was a great success Supreme Saber move, and it wasn't an ordinary great success Supreme Saber move. Unfortunately, against Yi Chen, none of these techniques were effective. Taste the blade technique I created based on the word, Wu, Blue Age. Lan Yu's whole body leapt up and gently slashed down with her blade. All of a sudden, a crystal-shattering sound was heard, and blue crystal fragments were everywhere. Yi Chen's sword attack could not completely destroy the crystals, and could only make them more and more fragmented, which was hard to defend against. Amazing! How could Yi Chen not see that Lan Yu's blade technique was close to perfection? If he used sword burial art, Yi Chen would definitely be able to break it, but he wanted to try defensive sword stance. When defensive sword stance was used, the sword light was formless and colorless, but Lan Yu could clearly feel a whirlpool forming where Yi Chen was. Her blade energy disappeared without a trace. Of course, Blue Age was close to perfection. Although it couldn't break Yi Chen's defensive sword stance, it could make Yi Chen too busy to counterattack. You're really abnormal. You've comprehended the word, defend, to this level in such a short time. Lan Yu descended from the sky and said speechlessly. Yi Chen said, your Blue Age is not bad. It has the meaning of endless. Lan Yu mainly cultivated the yin and yang profound. Yin and yang coexisted, and Blue Age displayed the essence of the yin and yang profound to the extreme. But it's not perfection yet. Lan Yu sighed and took out a huge stone from her storage ring, handing it over to Yi Chen. This is the word, Wu. Comprehend it well. In the courtyard, a huge stone towered there, with a huge word written on it. Wu. This word seemed like an emperor. It was only a word, but it gave Yi Chen a feeling of inferiority. It was as if this word had transformed into an invincible martial artist. Even if it was motionless, it still gave off an intense feeling of intimidation, not daring to have the slightest blasphemous thought. The word, Wu, left behind by a demigod contains at least half of the demigod's martial arts essence, his lifetime of comprehension. Yi Chen could feel the boundless essence of martial arts from the word, Wu. Just a little bit would be enough for him to digest for a long time. It would be impossible for him to digest it completely, unless he could become a legendary sovereign, and a peak one at that. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to comprehend this word, Wu. I'll take it slow. I'll cultivate the 5 elements sword arts to greater completion first, then to perfection. Yichen calmed his mind and entered the strange space of the word, Wu. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.